All right, so we are back, and it is Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk heavyweight unification fight week. I'm live this Saturday. Make sure you guys join in. More videos on that all throughout the week. But before we get to that, today I had to go back to the influencer boxing scene and talk about something that I'm starting to see, and that is the return of KSI. I know I've talked about, I don't know if he's going to fight. Why? What's happening with the shadows here? But it's not just that KSI is returning. It is that he's returning, and they're hinting toward him being around 200 pounds. And I understand why I think they're doing that, but I'm not convinced it's such a great idea. What do I mean? The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so KSI was at Misfits 14. He's been on vacation. I think he's been traveling with the Sidemen, just taking some time away. The guy's worked his tail off in the YouTube scene, done the boxing thing, deserved a vacation. I wondered if he'd ever be back, and I know that's a little bit hyperbolic now, but you never know, man. Cathartic experiences, losing your first fight, how does that affect someone's mental, especially for guys that don't have to do this and are pretty much set for life, especially KSI, who apparently, according to George Janko, is in a beef with Logan Paul right now that I can't even begin to talk about because that whole thing is bizarre and just, ugh, I don't know what's going on over there. But he let out of the bag that Prime's doing not only just okay, but amazing. Which, if you didn't already know that, I guess, where have you been the last 2 years? The point is, JJ doesn't need to box, and you wondered if he'd ever come back. Well, he was at the press conference for Misfits 14, which, by the way, the event itself went okay. I mean, it wasn't the most spectacular event ever. But the fights did what they were supposed to do and got us to the next one. Influencer boxing's in a kind of weird spot right now where unless KSI or Jake Paul or someone else is fighting, no one really cares, and that's something that they're going to have to work on because this thing wants to survive, then those big three are not going to be around for forever. Anyway, let's see what JJ had to say about his return, and apparently it's going to be sooner than later.
You know, I've said that I'm going to fight this year.
Yeah.
And I still am. Yeah, you know, right now I'm just training, you know, feeling good, eating well, just going through the motions, man. You know, practice.
A lot of hints there. A lot of hints. I'm going to continue on, but I have to stop it for a second. He said, I'm coming back before the end of the year. We are already in May, so that leaves June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months, which is a lot of time for JJ to get back in shape and get in the ring. But he also said, I'm eating really well there, right? It's a little hint, a little teaser for you for that 200 pounds that we're going to get back to. But even then, he's not just talking about I'm eating and staying out of shape. It looks like a deliberate plan. Why is there a mark on my arm? It looks like a deliberate plan to put on weight while he's training. That tends to make me think, conspiracy theory Wade, I don't have the hat on, but let's put the investigator Wade glasses on, that they're trying to get closer to the Jake Paul weight and trying to bulk him up. Obviously knowing that Jake is never coming back down to 175 or even 180 at this point. They definitely are trying to bulk JJ up for that fight. There's no other reason they would do that. There's no other reason he would want to be at that weight and fighting, because he's naturally not a guy that should be fighting in that weight. This is, in my opinion, super clear that without saying it, they're saying the direction is still the biggest one you can make, him versus Jake. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens after the Mike Tyson fight. But what I don't want to see is them trying to bulk up for a Tommy Fury rematch or Jake taking the Tommy fight. Instead, just push him aside and get these two in a ring. That's what I want to see. But anyway, let JJ continue.
There's definitely things I've learned from my previous loss, and yeah, you know, obviously with losses you learn from it, and I can't wait to get back into the ring and show everyone that, you know, I am the best.
I like that he's addressing this as a, you know, a loss, even though if he probably still doesn't feel like he lost. He's taking the route of someone that has lost and has to learn something from it. Like, JJ is just going to convince himself that he won that fight, and he's like, listen, I can just go do what I did the first time again, and nothing would change, and he'd probably have the same result if he did rematch Tommy Fury, or if he fights Jake, or whoever else. And that's a euphemism for life. You might lose, and you might lose multiple times, but you won't lose the same way over and over if you take the lesson from the loss you got and apply it to the next thing you do. That's the simplest way that life imitates boxing and boxing imitates life. Anything you do, learn from your losses.
No, there's definitely quite a few opponents, you know, that we've got lined up, and an exciting run for sure.
All right, then
Ooh, a run there, huh? An exciting run, and I don't think he's talking about a 5K. So there's an exciting list of opponents that JJ not only wants for his first fight, but when you talk about runs, you mean 1, 2, maybe 3 fights, or multiple fights, essentially, is what he's saying. I have a feeling I know where a couple of the names lie, but before we get to that, let's talk about the other thing that's important when you're saying JJ's opponents, and that is the weight, the 200 pounds that I referenced in the beginning. Let's see what JJ's camp thinks about why that's the case. Why do they want him at 200 pounds? And what are they looking to gain out of him going up? Let's take a look.
JJ as a person naturally walks around, he's like, struggling to hit 170 when he first started fighting. It's like, I know he might put on weight, but from an athletic point of view, you're not going to have somebody who's unhealthy and who's unfit and who can't do the rounds fight. So when he starts getting into shape, he loses weight, and his natural frame was quite small. And now his natural frame is bigger because we've managed to put on weight strategically, and it's taken our time. A lot of guys have put on weight.
That doesn't make any sense. His natural frame doesn't change because of the weight that he carries. His frame is what his body makeup looks like. Now, can your frame carry higher weight? Yes, absolutely. You're looking at it right now with Jake Paul, who is carrying 230 to 240 pounds. Now, does that 240 pounds at least rumored to be what Jake looks like in some of these pictures? Does that look like a weight his frame should be carrying naturally for a boxer? Absolutely not. He is way bigger than he would fight competitively for any other fight except Mike Tyson. My point is your frame doesn't change. If I put on 250 pounds, I'm still going to have these narrow-ass shoulders, my long-ass neck. There may be some muscles on there that carries it, but my frame is my frame. This is it. My shoulders don't get wider as I put on weight unless I try my lat spread that's non-existent. The only way JJ's frame would actually grow is if he got on like HGH or something. Like, that's the only way you can synthetically change someone's frame, is by enhancing the hormones that grow bone structure and freaking skull and everything else. Like, outside of that, what Alexis is really saying is that they are trying to put weight on JJ that naturally he probably wouldn't be fighting but they're trying to put the weight on him in a slower fashion to see how his body reacts versus what you saw him do in the Logan 2 fight, which is essentially dirty bolt, then try to cut a bunch of weight down for the fight. They want to build his weight little by little to see how his body responds and to see where the optimal weight is for him going up, which again, I think there's only one reason for the Jake fight. And see where that plateau of, okay, he's big enough to where his power can carry and it's not taking away from, I assume, his cardio.
Very muscle weight really quickly. Tend to do it in a kind of fraudulent fashion. It's not real muscle and it might be supplement aided. Whereas when you put on weight gradually, it tends to stay a bit better and he carries it a little bit better. So I think we put on some weight, but he's got a lot of power with that weight.
So what weight is he weighing right now?
He's in the region of 200 pounds.
Oh, wow, okay.
Really? Yeah, he's in the region of 200 pounds, okay.
In the region of 200 pounds is about what JJ weighed at the Logan 2 fight. I think he was 194. I've seen JJ in person. For him to carry 200 pounds at, let's say 6 feet, maybe. I don't remember if he's 6 feet, 6'1", I'm not sure. Maybe he's not 6 feet. He's going to have to be unnaturally big. He's not a guy that fits 200 pounds naturally. That's not something. I don't even fit 200 pounds naturally, and I'm 6'4". You know what I mean? I'm just built very skinny. And JJ's not the widest person ever. Now, this is maybe what he's walking around at right now, but I would say optimal fight weight for JJ, I heard him say it's a struggle to make 170. I don't even like him going that low, but 175, 180 is probably optimal fight weight for JJ, but that can't be what he weighs if they ever want to actually realistically get the Jake fight. But around 190, which it seems like they're getting a little bit more lenient with this 185 rehydration, whatever, 190 could absolutely make that fight happen. And it would be interesting to see how JJ carries that power higher versus Jake, who's also a big puncher for this scene, regardless how high he goes in weight.
Do you like him at that weight class?
Yeah, he punch. Like I said, the bonus is he punches massively hard, way harder than he's ever punched before in his life. But we now have a gas tank to power that 200 pounds. So it's like you got to make sure that you're gonna have to trim some of that down so that you get what you want out of it. Okay.
Because I'm only asking that because
see that tells me that they're at 200 right now and he's starting his thing. I think that tells me they're going to trim him down and be more likely around the 190 pound range and go to Jake and their team at some point and say, okay, this is what we can agree to. You didn't want to do 80. 85 was, we had an issue with the rehydration, whatever. 190 seems reasonable, and I would agree. 190 would seem reasonable, except for the fact that Jake's 240 pounds right now. Again, I don't think that's a weight that Jake will continue to fight at. And I don't even see him at that weight for the fight. I could see Jake at 220 for the fight against Mike, but even then, I think he's still heavier than he should be for a fit, long rounds, 3-minute rounds fight, which again 190 would make sense.
Jake Paul was weighing about 240 pounds, which makes the fight even when you look at KSI's last fight at 185, or when he likes fighting down to 175, it looks like it's almost impossible to be made. I take it if Jake Paul was to fight KSI, would that be like a 200-pound weight class?
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave that to the promoters to sort out. As far as I'm concerned, Jake Paul stylistically fits us. I couldn't care what weight he was at. Obviously we're going to make it fair because that's what we should do. I mean, you've seen recently Ryan Garcia Hanley missed by 3 pounds, and that looked not so fair. Regardless of what it was stylistic, there's a weight to be made.
Alexis, don't get me started on the Ryan Garcia thing, man. The comments will kill me. God, Alexis, already went through this for a month. Don't get me started on these guys again, man.
When it comes to weight, we've always got to be strict with it because you're dealing with people's lives, so weight matters. But generally speaking, I think stylistically that fight suits us. So I'm not really. We'll make sure the weight's fair for both of us. Like, there's not going to be any hydration clauses or this, that, or the other. I think we should just make a weight, meet in the middle, and go. Well, we fight out what he fights out, split the difference, me in the middle.
Interesting. Okay, so one, it seems like I'm hitting the nail on the head here. They are coming back for this Jake Paul fight. That's what it sounds like when Alexis talks. That's what it sounds like when JJ talks. He's talking about a run, but he's obviously, hinting toward being heavier. And then when Alexis just flat out says we're making him heavier and, we like the stylistic matchup for the Jake fight, this is the plan. And again, at 190, while JJ will give up some size for sure, and Jake will be bigger on fight night by a good margin than JJ would, that isn't necessarily a bad idea. Being 200, which is heavyweight, I don't think is a great idea because then you're giving almost everything away. And we'll see how JJ's power carries. I know it carried well against Logan. I think Jake is a bit of a different fighter from Logan, and honestly, he's just built different than Logan. The guy looks like a pit bull. And honestly, outside of JJ taking the flush uppercut from Logan and Jake taking a right hand from Tyron Woodley through the ropes, neither guy's really been hurt since those moments. Like, even the losses for both guys, no one was really hurt badly. Jake got his nose bloodied up and got tagged by Tommy Fury some, but no one's really been hurt. So it's going to be an interesting thing to look at for JJ getting to that weight. But the stylistic matchup thing is what I'm holding on to. They truly 1,000% believe that JJ is going to clip Jake with that right hand. Talk about his power. And obviously, they found openings versus Tommy Fury, and it landed. They see those same openings with Jake. And like we've said for years now, it would be interesting to see what would happen if that shot does land. But this is where I want to end off. The opponents, right? JJ said we have a laundry list, or there's exciting opponents for this run. And I think, again, when you combine JJ coming back before the end of the year, I don't think he'll fight Jake this year. And if he does, it'll be at the end of the year, December, January timeframe, because we got 7 months. That leaves at most 2 fights for JJ this year, probably more like 1. And I'm starting to believe if he's going up in weight, that the usual suspects might not even be people that JJ wants. Like, you have Tyron Woodley still floating around out there. I don't know that they want to do that. Again, a former opponent of Jake's, and he can't really beat him better than Jake did, so maybe not. Nate Diaz, another opponent of Jake who Jake beat. Again, you're going to have to deal with claims of, did you do it better than Jake did? I don't know if you want to go that route. You have Jorge Masvidal, who's on the table. That one's pretty interesting, right? You could potentially see JJ and Jorge. That's a size-wise matchup. And if Jorge beats Nate Diaz, then yes, you can go and say, okay, well, Jake beat Nate, Jorge beat Nate, and I'm going to beat Jorge to show I can beat, I don't know, however you want to play it with the freaking boxing math that never works out, but it's also someone that JJ can get experience fighting a high-level striker. And then, of course, you have the Tommy Fury fight is still out there. I swear to God, if they do the Tommy Fury rematch before they do Jake and KSI, I'm going to lose my mind. But then there's an interesting fight that I would say would be a bad idea, and this is what I was referring to at the intro of the video. If JJ is going to be around 200 pounds, that means inviting bigger people to fight him before he even gets to Jake. And one name that keeps floating around, and I'm starting to see more sparring and specific boxing footage of, is Darren Till. This fight would be a massive risk for JJ because Darren Till is for real. Now, again, I have my reservations about this because Darren Till is southpaw. Again, southpaws are just tricky, and training for him is a hassle. And also, Darren Till has power in his hands. He throws like a Muay Thai specialist because that's what he was and is, and those guys really don't pull punches on anything. The setups are there, but when they sit down on a shot, those motherfuckers crack. But Darren Till will stand square in front of you, and he will do it with his hands down and his chin in the air. This is how Jorge caught him with his blitz, and JJ known for blitzing as well. That's a potential opponent, and it would give some legitimacy to JJ to potentially use that and get the Jake fight quicker that way and kind of jumpstart his second comeback. I don't know. I'm throwing names out there because I don't think it's going to be Jake right away. If it's me picking for JJ to come back and fight someone right away, I would like to see him fight one of the Misfits guys first, but that's probably not going to happen, especially now that we're hearing him going up in weight. So the most likely matchup, it's not going to be an easy fight if you take any of the names I said. So the most likely matchup for me, I don't know, man. It's not going to be an easy matchup, whether it's Darren Till, Jorge Masvidal, even Nate Diaz or Mike Perry. I don't think any of those are easy nights for JJ, but the one that would gain you the most legitimacy and the guy that would probably be the most readily available to hit, that you wouldn't have to do the whole comparison to Jake Paul thing, would be Mike Perry. So if there's any way to prepare you for a stocky 185 or 90 pound guy that has a chin made of granite seemingly and is a champion of another organization, the name for me is Mike Perry. I think Darren's way too big, but being around that 200 to 190 might be the only way he gets the Jake fight. So looks like JJ's willing to risk it for the biscuit. And that is something I respect, because now here I go flip-flopping again. I know you guys don't like to hear me say it, but if he's going to come back and he's aiming at 200, there's only one reason for that. It's the Jake fight. To get there, he's going to have to go through somebody first. I would like to see it be Mike Perry, but I don't have those answers. You guys tell me, is 200 pounds a good look for JJ? Is that the wrong idea? Should he be staying lower in weight and competing there and then jumping up for a Jake fight? Or should he gradually work his way up there so that the time, if it ever happens, when it ever happens, that him and Jake fight, it's at least somewhat of an understandable, happy medium between the two? That's where I'll leave it. You guys let me know. Once again, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk fight week. I think Jake has a press conference today with Mike Tyson that we're probably going to break down for an episode tomorrow. All good stuff this week. Videos potentially every single day. I will see you guys on Saturday live as well. What happens with JJ? When does he come back? Who does he fight? Don't have those answers, but we do know one thing. KSI's back. What he does next, guess we'll find out.